Hey everybody, this is part 2 of the Armoured Shiva Cosplay tour. If you haven't watched part 1, you should go do that. It's pretty much just going through the whole costume, head to toe. This is just going to go into more detail of like how I made the icicles and how I did body painting and all that. So yeah, welcome to part 2. Enjoy! Alright, now I'm going to show you guys a little bit more detail about the icicles, because I know that's probably the most prominent feature of this whole cosplay, and probably the most amount of work that I put into it. So yeah, I'll go into more detail on how I made those. So I did notice actually I had these sitting in a bag for a little while and they kind of like bent a little bit, so that's not a huge deal. I can easily just heat shape it and form it back into its regular shape, but it looks a little sad right now. But yeah, so the icicles I made out of Worbla's Transpa art. So it's that clear Worbla that you can get from Cosplay Supplies. Arta Wigs is where I got mine from. There's tons of suppliers that you can find it. It just looks like this. So it's just like a big roll of clear thermoplastic. And you basically just heat it up with a heat gun and form it into whatever shape you want. The only thing that's a little bit different than regular Worbla is that it doesn't have any adhesive on it, so you have to either glue it yourself together or just kind of like form it in a way where it doesn't really need to be glued, which in my case with the icicles, I didn't glue them at all. So there's some places you can kind of see there's a bit of a seam, I don't know. Yeah, like you can see the seams on these a little bit. They're a little hidden just because of the shape, but basically it just held its shape, so I didn't need to glue them together at all, which is awesome. I was a little worried about that, but yeah. So I essentially just kind of cut out little like triangle shapes with a little bit of a curve on the bottom edge, and when I heat shape them, I just kind of slowly like roll them together into a cone. And then I took 2 pencils with the eraser ends, and when the Worbla was hot, I just kind of like dented them to make these shapes with the little like crazy little curves and, you know, wobbly bits. There's a video of that in my Shiva highlights underneath our bio. You can kind of see that in more detail, so check that out if you want to see it. So when I made the icicles, I actually stuffed them with cellophane with that kind of like glistening kind of look, because they were too see-through and you can see all the LEDs inside, so I needed to kind of diffuse it a little bit. And I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of a kind of like a shimmery glow as well. So I bought this. It's like gift wrap cellophane stuff you can get at Michael's. I just bought this and kind of just cut out little pieces, little chunks of it, just shoved it in with the end of a paintbrush, and yeah, I think it worked out super well. So the LEDs that I used, actually, I bought these off of Amazon, and they're just string lights that come in these like packages, so you can buy multiples for pretty cheap, which is great. And they just look like that. So just the string lights, you know, little fairy lights and stuff, a little delicate. You can get different colors. The ones I used are the cooled white, so they don't have like that ambery glow to them. They're a little bit more just like a pure white. I was gonna go with blue, but it was a little too blue. There would have been a lot of blue, so I decided to go with white. Yeah, and so I think I also have photos and stuff of the process in the highlights as well, but essentially I just kind of shoved a couple lights in each icicle. I'll turn this on. This is where the switch is. It's just facing the front of the pauldron. Just kind of flick that on, the lights turn on. Yeah, so each icicle has about, I don't know, like 2 or 3 different lights in them. And I just shoved the wires in there as well. Yeah, and it has this nice like glow to it. and it's super easy just to change the battery pack if you need to. Just take that out. And I bought these kind of like vase filler stuff from Michael's that kind of look icy, and that's what I used around the icicles when I put them on, because you can kind of see like the holes that I cut out for each of them when I put them in through the pauldrons. So I need to hide that, and I want to give it a little bit more of kind of like a snowy, icy effect. I literally glued each one of these bits on with super glue by hand, and it took forever, but it was worth it. And then there's these bigger chunks that I kind of put around all the icicles. Yeah. And yeah, on the base, I just did like a kind of like a stippled white paint to kind of give it that kind of frosty look. Yeah, pretty sick. And I guess one more thing I should mention, I got these little gemmies off of Amazon as well. They're just basically chandelier crystals, and you can buy them in bulk, and they're fantastic for embellishments, and they were perfect for what I was looking for. I also used them in there as well. They're kind of all over the place, but yeah, they're super fun to work with, and they all have these like little like hangy bits. You know, it was super easy to just like glue them in. I literally just like stab them into the trim and like glue them into the trim. You know, pretty easy. Yeah, and all these like gemmy bits, like the diamond bits I got from Michael's. These little guys. Y'all. All right, so now it's time to talk about the wig. So I am not well versed in wig styling at all. This is my first time kind of really trying to style a wig. It is actually a complete hot mess right now. She looks like she's had a rough night. I need to redo these braids because they kept getting caught on some Velcro on my costume and kept pulling hair out. So that can be redone easily. No big deal. And this was a huge matted mess, but I just brushed that out. So essentially I used a wig from Arda, and it's called Genie in dark blue. It has a clip-on ponytail here, so you kind of just clip that on to like however. I like it nice and high up there. And this ponytail is so long and it's really heavy, but it is honestly probably the most fun I've ever had wearing a wig because of this long ass ponytail. Just made me feel so majestic. And I used long wefts in the front and the bangs just kind of lengthen because the bangs only came about to chin height here. So I made long wefts to make these big long braids. They're not as thick as I would like them, I think, but honestly it works for what it is. I think any thicker would be too uncomfortable, just because I sewed the weft like right into the seam here, and one part here was digging so badly into my forehead, and I actually have like you can't see it, but I had like this scab here for a little while because it dug right into my forehead. So yeah, and then I just used like fabric to, or this is actually bias tape, and I wrapped it around and just glued it to keep it in place on there. And then these are just the foam dowels from Lumen's Workshop that I got from Arda. And I think these are the 15mm or the 1 centimeter, I believe. Yeah, for the rings. And I essentially just cut them at an angle there and glued them, and they worked out super nice. So the last thing I want to cover is just how I did my body painting. Again, like this whole cosplay was basically like experimenting with materials and new stuff I've never done. Body paint, this is my first time doing that, so it was interesting. And it was the part that I was most afraid of because there's like so much out there and I just didn't know what to start with. Again, I did all my research online and I found a lot of people use kind of water-based makeup, but it kind of rubs off a little bit. And I didn't want mine to rub off. So I searched for an alcohol-based paint, which kind of sticks to your skin, and it's you know, it's a lot harder to get that to rub off with sweat and water and stuff like that. So I really wanted it to stay. So I found this stuff called Endura. It's an alcohol-based makeup paint, which can be airbrushed or it can be sponge brushed on you. I really wanted to airbrush, but I never had the time to learn how to use my airbrush before using it, so I had to sponge it. And I used, I think this is a 4mm bottle. Oh, the color is called Vein Blue as well. And when I got it, I was a little afraid because it didn't look like the right color. But when I put it on my body, it was actually pretty good. But yeah, so I just sponged it on, but I actually just ended up using this as a base, just to kind of, you know, have like a base layer. And then I did actually use the Maron Sky cake stuff. I've used this for like our Totoro cosplay and stuff like that, and I already had the color, which is great. So I actually used this on top as the main layer, and then I just got the Maron white as well, just to mix with it to kind of get the right tone. And the color turned out perfect. The only thing was certain areas did rub off a little bit, so like on my neck, a little bit on my stomach, like where my breastplate was rubbing, and a little bit kind of like behind right here, but it actually wasn't too bad. My face was fine, like my chest was fine, and that's all I painted. I didn't do any, my arms or my legs, those were all tights. So, and like I did my whole stomach and torso. So, and then I sealed that all with this Endura Pro Seal stuff. So I think that really helped. Yeah, it took about, I want to say like an hour and a half to do all that paint, and then plus makeup on top of that. So it definitely takes a while to get it on, but it lasted pretty much all day. So yeah. So yeah, I think I covered everything. If I didn't, and if you're curious about anything at all, feel free to message us on our Instagram page and I'll do my best to answer your question. But yeah, hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching. I love you all. Bye.